Like I told you, we're having two talking points today, and today the second point is we're looking at the return of the Abacha loot. $227 million, about 167 million euros, about 35 or 37 billion naira, have been returned to Nigeria. Actually, it will be returned today. Today is 25th of June, and this is when Liechtenstein, I hope I got that name right, it's tongue twisted, is saying they're going to return that money. Well, let's run through that graph. Well, Monday will give you some graphic details of what we did. Let's run through them again. The origin or the history of the Abacha, like I told you, is the end of a 16-year battle. If we have that graphics on air right now, the 16-year battle concluded with a 16-year effort to retrieve the money, and the recovery of money has been blocked by legal action brought by companies linked to the Abacha family. Well, Liechtenstein had returned 7.5 million euros in 2013. Nigeria agreed last Wednesday to drop charges against Mohammed Abacha in return for this. We'll give you details of that on Monday. Mohammed Abacha was accused of unlawfully receiving $2.7 million of government money from his father, while Transparency International claims Abacha may have stolen as much as $56 billion. That's what it's supposed to be, $56 billion. Abacha ruled Nigeria from 1993 to 1998. And Liechtenstein is a tiny country of 37,000 people. Like I told you earlier on, the federal government has already set up a committee, but it's saying that 1/3 of that money, 7 million euros, will be going to the Future Generation Fund of the Sovereign Wealth Fund. But I also told you, I played a video which I'm going to replay right now of Okengwu speaking in October 2013 about the challenges in getting this money back. At that time, she announced that it was 185 million euros. Today, they are returning 167 million euros. And like on Monday, we are still asking what's happening to the balance 18 million euros. Let's listen to Okengwu.
Liechtenstein owes us, is holding about 185 million euros of Nigeria's money. And for 14 years, you know, starting since the presidency of President Abacha, we have been pursuing this money in Liechtenstein. And this is part of the legacy of the Abacha monies that were taken out of the country. And there have been several steps. You know, we've had a lawyer who has been working on this case as well as other cases of lost Abacha money. But the essence is we identified this money in Liechtenstein, 185 million euros. We, through our lawyer, Mr. Monfrini of Switzerland, we first started under the Obasanjo administration, and now, credit to President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, he has been pursuing it in the last few years with the same lawyer. The Attorney General of the Federation has also been working on this. In fact, they were working before I joined. And the idea is that there have been several legal steps and challenges that have been thrown in Liechtenstein courts against returning this money. The money, was sent in through some front companies. Some, what do you call them? Yes, that's what they are. Shell companies, yeah, thank you, that's the word. Some shell companies that were opened up in Liechtenstein, and their money was transferred through these companies into Liechtenstein banks. But beneficiaries was really the Abacha, General Abacha at the time. And so when we identified this money 14 years ago, we set a series of steps to try and get it back. It's gone through several courts. The companies or their representatives have always thrown legal challenges every step of the way. It's now got to a stage where the courts in Liechtenstein have litigated and said the money should be returned. However, the Abacha, those companies have taken the case to the European Court of Human Rights, saying that the Liechtenstein government has, violated their human rights by allowing this money to be taken away from them. And that's where, of course, that charge does not obtain. But by taking it to that court, that means another 2 or 3 years delay, isn't it? It's just delaying tactics. Now, delaying tactics suits the government of Liechtenstein very well because they get to keep the money. Their banks give the money, and what will they do? They will invest it and get money out of it. So if this keeps being delayed, this is denying Nigeria its rightful possession. And the Liechtenstein government asked us to sign a guarantee that if the European Court of Human Rights fines them for any reason, we will indemnify them. That means we will pay that fine. We said fine, just to get out, because the likelihood.
Yes, that was Minister of Finance, Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, speaking right there, the Liechtenstein money, Liechtenstein. Well, to go through with these discussions, which will be more on the international channel, but we're still on local channel right now, but in about 5 to 6 minutes we'll be going off the local channel. But let's introduce our guest, Dr. Emeka Okengwu, who is a public affairs analyst. Welcome. And of course, Reverend David Ugolo, civil rights activist, and of course the coordinator of the Nigerian Stolen Assets Network. Nigerian Network of Stolen Assets, or Nigerian Stolen Assets Network. Anyway, welcome to the program. And let's start with you, David Ugolo. You have been following this issue of stolen assets in Nigeria. I was trying to read this publication. I read it, Nigerian Network of Stolen Assets publication, and it was very revealing that even $500 million that was received in 2006 of the Abacha loot was not really properly spent. Now we are receiving another 167 million euros. And they say 1/3 of that will be going to the Future Generation Fund, which is the third window of the Nigerian Sovereign Wealth Fund. The Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority had announced that a while ago, and President Goodluck Jonathan had made a stamp on that. But what do you think generally about the spending of loots from Nigeria?
Well, first, there is a political support for the campaign, both within and outside the country, and internationally. When we all started the campaign for recovering assets about 10-15 years ago, there was a huge support, both at the international level, at the G8, World Bank level, IMF level, UN level, even in UN meeting in Monterrey. And if you look at the Monterrey consensus, issue of stolen asset was another identified areas of having resources to mobilize to finance development in developing country. So when the campaign started to get Abacha money returned back to Nigeria, so it gained political support from the international community. And while discussing that, unfortunately, within the country, we don't have really clear, coherent framework to make use and how the money should be used. And so governments who, from Obasanjo time to this present regime, have taken advantage of this lack of coherence in dealing with these issues to somehow the way the money is used, it cannot be properly accounted for. In the context of Abacha loot that was recovered, which we monitored, which is containing that report, first, there are good lessons to learn from it. It was an important initiative because it was the first time in the world that civil society, combined with the government, with the World Bank, and with the Swiss government support, we were able to set up that framework in monitoring the use of that stolen asset, which was recovered. But the lessons we learned from it is that there wasn't really good use. Some of the money was not used properly because we went to the projects where Abacha money was claimed to be abused. We found out that some of those projects were not located, and even in tracking the fund in terms of financial flow wasn't there. And these are things we found that in monitoring those projects.
Okay, let me stop you there.
Yes.
Because you will explain further on that. I have some of them here.
Yeah.
Dr. Okengwu, you heard how this present money is going to be used. Part of it, they say 1/3 of it is going to be sent to the sent to the Future Generation Fund. I remember I was discussing with you before we came on air, and you were very apprehensive about that.
Yeah, I'm not only apprehensive about that. I'm also saying, is Abacha the only head of state we've had? Okay. Are we trying to say that the network of recovery of assets, foreign assets, only identified Abacha as the only looter? Before we even go to where it is that want to spend these funds on. But in commending the federal government for returning whatever has been returned, I mean, this is us announcing 56 billion and celebrating 182 or 185 million, for crying out loud. However, let's not go out of tangents. Let me answer your questions very directly. You are talking about the future when you don't have a now. Okay? Some people can argue that Nigeria is failing. Rightly so. Some people can argue that there's a lot of poverty in the land, and there will be, very empirical evidences to support what it is they're saying. But however, now you have 30 billion. This is a country that runs a budget of 4.6 trillion. We have not been able to spend it well. And then we have 30 billion and everybody is up in arms of what we're going to do with it. And then somebody says to you, some percentage of it has to go to future generation funds. And you have what you call your real sector that everybody is shouting that needs to be developed for us to be able to now in place a proper strategy to fight poverty. What is the real sector? Mining. What is the rail sector? Agriculture. What is the rail sector? How do you now value chain what comes from your natural resources into your industrial process? To start with, what does it cost to be able to now start a proper mining chain? Exploration. The major reasons why we are not getting investors into the mining industry in Nigeria. I've listened to some gentleman that came in and said, give me 3 trillion and I can give you whatever. That's not it. Mining is a purely sequenced and organized sector where you release what you call critical data, which no investor will put his money into giving you. It is either done with patient capital or it is done with government support. Why aren't you putting this money into now generating that what you call in situ value data that can be able to now unlock your mineral resources and investments? We are talking about agriculture, and the Ministry of Agriculture tells you we've imported 20 million metric tons of seeds. Why aren't you putting this money into research institutes that can be able to now do your seed multiplication, take it out of the ministries and research agencies and put it in the hands of MI who wants to leave AIT and begin a seedling program? Put it in the hands of my dear Reverend. Okay, who wants to now, okay, fine, we'll find out where this loot is. Let me go to my village and begin to now multiply yam seedlings, multiply bean seedlings, do germplasm. My brother, then you are talking, because it is now that will determine tomorrow. It is not tomorrow that will determine now. And because we plan for tomorrow, that is why we're suffering today. We are busy taking loans and they're saying they are not loans, they are grants, they have a 40-year moratorium. What does it mean? It simply means that that money you have taken today, your children who are 3, I saw them running around you on the day you did birthday. Those are the children that are putting this debt on their heads. This is what the matter is. So when you're now recovering loot, like I said, there are 3 issues my brother we must focus on. First, is it because Abacha is dead? What about the ones living? Second, now you're saying it's 56 billion. What happened to the rest of the money? I can answer the question about the difference. The woman has said to you, we've employed lawyers. The woman has said to you, you're also going to indemnify us. What does indemnify mean? If there are any fines that we need to pay, you have to pay the fines. If there are any legal fees that are going to accrue, you have to pay these legal fees. So I think, without wasting a lot of time, what we should be focusing on is, can government please develop what you can call, cognizable, bottom-up projects, result-oriented, demand-driven projects that you can be able to invest this money into, not throw the money at. Those are 2 different things.
Okay, David Golo, he just asked a very, very important question. Is Abacha loot the only loot we have had in the country? As the head or coordinator of the Nigerian Network of Stolen Assets, what other loots have you people looked at?
I think it's just missing the point. Whether Abacha is dead or not, it's not the issue. We are just talking, I think we should focus on the topic. We're talking about a loot recovered and how it is used.
Yeah.
Whether it's Abacha alone, that's another different issue. We're talking about this recovery and what lessons we should learn from it. I'm not, because if we begin to say why Abacha alone, then we're politicizing the issue.
Okay.
Abacha stole Nigerian money, transferred it to abroad, and Nigeria have identified it, and we're recovering it back. Whether Mr. A or Mr. C also stole, that's not the issue. We're dealing with Abacha. He's a thief. He stole Nigerian money and looted it, stashed it in Western Bank. We identified it and we recovered it. Now, when it was recovered, Nigerian government has no policy in place on how it should be used. In the first place, and that's one of the issues we're going to be raising around this recent recovery. But before then, we must commend Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala for the role she has played. She has done very well, no doubt, right from the time of Obasanjo in taking, because her credibility and her integrity has helped Nigeria to achieve that goal in recovering this stolen asset. Now, I won't commend her. We have identified problem, challenge, and that challenge we have identified in the previous one we monitored is what has also happened in this one that is coming from the system. Now, the government have gone ahead to set up an interministerial committee.
Yes.
That for me is an attempt again to deceive Nigerians.
Okay, hold it. An attempt to deceive Nigerians.
Yes.
We'll sign off here on our terrestrial viewers and continue for our international viewers. This issue, we'll have still another 5 minutes with our international viewers. But for it now, continue.
Now, that for me is a very serious issue. So there are two fundamental issues we must raise as to how can Nigerian benefit from this money recovered back to Nigeria. Whether it's Abacha, whether it's but on Abacha issue, the money that is recovered from listing, how do we benefit from it? First, there are fundamental issues that our network on stolen assets will be raising. This money do not belong to the federal government alone. It's Nigerian money. And the constitution is very clear how Nigerian money should be shared. Now, the previous one, the federal government did not follow those constitutional principles. We will not allow it to happen this time around. All the local government across Nigeria, the 36 states across Nigeria, need to benefit from this Abacha loan. So we're going to be raising this question with the federal government.
I was going to look at the other ones. I noticed some issues. I noted some issues.
Yes, and then
inside in your monitoring the first 500 million.
Yes.
We said in one instance the alleged location of a project in a local government area that turned out to not even exist
at all. In terms of some project we actually monitored in the previous one, the project was not in existence.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, when we came out with this report, the World Bank also had their own report. And this is the same thing that the government wants to do now. Now, we don't have disagreement in terms of monitoring with partnering with the World Bank and other institutions. But we want to raise some fundamental constitutional issues. Now the money is recovered. It has to go to the federation account. It has to be shared across the 36 states and the 774 local governments, because that is the constitution. The constitution said when you get the money, do not belong to the federal government alone. It's Nigerian government money. The money Abacha stole belongs to the Nigerian government, not the federal government alone.
Okay. So are you saying that this money should be shared?
Yes, and then
be used for projects?
Yes,
because like what
it should be shared, and then the states and at the state level and at the local government level, when it is shared, we know how much it gets to each of the local government. We know how much gets to the state government. Then every civil society at each state level could monitor it, because when you put this money in the federal government and like what happened in the 500 million, you saw what happened. We couldn't even identify some of the project. Now the fundamental issues we are raising, it shouldn't be at the discretion of the president to decide what such money should be used. For instance, if I hear Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala very well, he said if the president have directed that one